Welcome to this episode of Root of Recovery Stories. My name is Patrick Custer. I'm so excited to be here with you all today and my special guest. I first want to say, if you are tuning in, it is by no accident, it's on purpose. You're meant to be here. And I hope that you stick around through this whole entire episode because there's a lot of powerful stuff we're going to be talking about. And you, my friend, are meant to be here too. Yes. Tox Josh, Josh Davis.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
Love what you're doing.
I want to... Sometimes I do a big intro about describing the person, and I really want yours to be your story describing you as we talk.
Okay, perfect.
And so
I love that.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do a big lead into it. And so thank you so much for being here. I am so pumped and jazzed to dive in with you today.
It's gonna be fun.
Heck yes.
Are you all ready? Like,
I don't know if they are. I am, yes. But we're about to be a hot mess, y'all. So
that's the only way to be.
Yeah. Yes.
If it ain't, I don't want no part of it.
That's right. Right. So speaking of a hot mess, we're going to start off with two truths and a lie.
Okay. I'm here for this.
Yes.
Or as I love to say, I'm queer for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Two truths and a lie.
Yes.
Okay. Put me on the spot. I love this. All right. I shattered my nose with a rifle. Let's see. The other one would be I was a DCI color guard guru. And the other one would be I was in pastoral school.
Oh, the pastoral school has got to be the lie.
I looked so cute in a collar.
I don't doubt.
Totally a lie.
Like, I was gonna say I don't doubt that you looked great in a collar.
Oh Lord, yeah. Oh my God, those were probably terrible.
What? No, it was perfect.
Okay, well. Hopefully that was a good first.
That's amazing. I think you were trying to scare me there, which I just found out is something that we both have in common.
Oh, yes. Because you literally just scared the bejesus out of me and several of the people in here. And I was like, okay, I'm usually not scareable, but he got me good. Like,
heck yes. The spirit came over me and I just felt the opportunity and took it.
It's so much fun. Like, yeah. I do it all the time. Like, Kinsey Skin, if you don't know her, she's fabulous. But she's the esthetician in my clinic. And I am always it's constant social media content. I'm just like, okay, we're going to scare her. And then like 10 minutes later, I get her again and it's just as good as the first one.
Yes.
It's so much fun.
It's perfect.
We're gonna have to pay for a lot of people's therapy bill, but it's fine.
To me, I think it's an alternative form of therapy.
Yeah, we're just scaring the trauma out of them.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Using trauma to scare trauma.
Yeah. I've got a number of reels on my Instagram of Oliver Promises Behavioral Health, me scaring some like our CEOs and all kinds of people that run our various different departments and what have you. And it's all in good fun, you know?
They hate it in the moment, but they really love us. It's
right.
Fun. Yeah. They would not like it if we stopped.
They might be commenting on the comments below here saying otherwise, but we know the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Won't ever stop.
No. The audience loves it. So we have to keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much. I love that we are able to connect on humor and positivity and so many of the things that make us smile, make us laugh.
Laugh's too short not to, my gosh.
That's right.
We're also uptight and so serious all the time. And I'm like, we need so much more laughter.
You hear that, Aaron?
Ooh, call out at the century.
He was just saying we need more laughter. So y'all, I scared the bejesus out of my producer at the beginning, right when we were doing mic checks. And it was well worth it.
Who just so happens to be a college friend of mine. We were at Vandy together and I was like freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen you since graduation. Yeah, when I coached the dance line there. Now if I try to lift my leg, I break a hip, but I used to be able to dance. I mean, it might not be completely PG rated, but y'all were cute though. No.
I don't know about this. Might be. I think we might have found our episode title for this episode: "Questionable Choreography" with Josh.
Please let that be it. Yeah, there were some times where they would look at me, they're like, "You want us to do what?" And I'm like, "Just do it. It's fine. You're gonna look cute." But it was, probably not the most PG rated.
Uh-huh.
But they were great. The crowd loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So you are a very creative person.
Well, thank you.
And it comes out in all kinds of ways in your life. And we were just talking about how, like many of us in the past few years, especially in Nashville, are over the renting situation. It's time to become a home buyer. And you were talking about how you just recently got a home.
Oh, yes.
And you're doing a bunch of reno to it.
Yes.
And I kind of loved one of the things that you brought up, talking about how the walls and all the parallels.
Yeah, I was talking about like, they were like, buy a house, they said. It'll be fun, they said. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this summer I was telling you that this is all about like, it was supposed to be like taking a break from work and the career and really just focusing on you because I kind of lost myself in all of it. And then like we all do, I'm like, it's time to work on ourselves. Oh no, let's buy a house. We're going to work on it instead, because that's more fun to do.
Right. The outside solution to an inside problem.
Exactly. And I was like, I'm trying to look at it now, like, and it's a lot. I learned how to build a closet. I am here for it. Like I learned to drywall, doing all the things. And I was like, what I'm realizing is like, I'm tearing down walls and all that stuff. While I'm also tearing down walls into myself. So I'm trying to look at this instead of like a project to do, look at it as something fun to do. And like, how can I relate it over to myself and the work that I need to do? What am I learning with doing the home? How can I renovate my inside too? So it's kind of, that's the way I'm choosing to do. There's times where I'm screaming, but it's okay. Ran a screw through my finger. It's fine. It's great.
I also feel like it's a great comparison to the journey through our walk in mental health as well.
It really is.
Right.
Like it truly is. And people think like, you hop into a therapist or you hop into something and you think it's going to be like instantly solved or instantly fixed. And then you leave and you realize, no, you have to do the work.
Oh, yeah.
And it is stuff like, especially I'm in the process going through kind of like a spiritual awakening as well. And they're like, we think those are going to be fun. It takes you into the trenches,
right?
Like mental health and that it takes you through the trenches, but you have to appreciate the darkness because without darkness, there's no light. And so like you've got to have that duality with that. So it's I used to be terrified of the dark and now I've learned to like embrace that side because when you go within, that's where you can really dive into the shadow self. You dive down deep into who you are and you find the stuff that like needs to come to the light. And that's where the healing happens.
The things that all our lives, society, and maybe our family members or support system, who, I don't know, we'll get into that a little bit more with you, but I think in general, for many of us, our society is so centered around instant gratification.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, Amazon.
Yeah.
Press the button. It's here.
May or may not be able to relate. My husband, I'm so glad he's not here to speak on that. So, so the instant gratification, but also really, what you were talking about, what is deep down underneath. We talk about so much of the peeling back the layers of the onion, and there's so many different metaphors for what we're talking about, but there's years and years of things we use to medicate, stifle, cover up.
Oh, yes. And add on top of that being a gay man.
Wait, you're...
Oh, no. I mean...
You're gay?
Yeah. I mean, hello. Like, if the shoe fits, honey. No, it's like...
Speaking of shoes, if you're... Call to action here, people. If you're listening, thank you. But also, please hop on over to YouTube because you got to see Josh's shoes.
Oh, my God. Okay. That's my healthy addiction. That's what I'm like, you know what? Well, it really doesn't because when the credit card bill comes, it's a magic card that gets you these pretty shoes and then the credit card bill and you're like, I don't want to pay for it. I just wanted the shoes. But it's the addiction that I'm like, okay, I'm allowed to have. Like,
okay, fair enough.
Like shoes. I love me some shoes. Yeah.
Well, you got some mad shoe game.
Thank you.
We all appreciate that here.
That's why I'm having to build a closet. It's so my shoes can have a better life, pretty much.
Wait, what? Where's the mental health metaphor we can make a comparison there? I don't know. We'll get there.
Until you have a walk in my shoes.
Oh.
You'll never know. Which is, honestly, it's so true. Like, it's an oldie, but that's still a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah. It really is.
I don't know if I'll ever walk in shoes as expensive as yours, but that's all right. Good God. So, oh my gosh, where do we start? I always love to start at the beginning of someone's story.
Yeah.
Like life. Where did it start out with you, and what did life look like?
Oh, yes.
And so, little kid Josh,
Yes.
where were we? What did family life look like?
I've come a long way from where I'm at now to where I come from. And a lot, like looking at, this, it's funny because I grew up on a farm, like in East Tennessee, like country kid. I had to lose my accent a little bit when I went to Vandy because everybody made fun of me. And I'm like, look, you're in my state now. This is what we sound like. But I've come a long way with that. But yeah, I grew up on a farm in East Tennessee. And
What part?
Morristown. Well, Bean Station was where I was born.
Okay.
Bean Station. So it literally is like you blink and you miss it. And then, and then moved to Rutledge, which is even more country on that. My dad still lives there. And then, moved to Morristown, which is kind of like the city part of it, if we can call it a city, because it was kind of a very small city.
Yeah.
But lived out, on a farm for a little bit and then moved, but it's super country out through there, and did the thing and, kept myself busy because I knew there was a certain side of me that I had to hide, being from East Tennessee. So that made it, it was kind of like a little plot twist, like growing up and being a primitive Baptist preacher's kid.
Yeah.
That added a whole other level to it. So it's like plot twist, hey guys, there's a side of me that I'm not going to show you because I'm terrified for my life. God, that was back. I was born in 1984. So, growing up that time wasn't okay at all. So, and I grew up through there, and you think that you have a pretty good life. It was great. I did this. I was straight A's and did all the clubs and all the things. And then moved to Nashville in 2003 when I went to Vandy, and have been here pretty much ever since. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot to unbox there with the childhood stuff, but
Yeah.
And that, and that was the biggest thing, looking back now, like you see this picture perfect childhood until you realize, like, why am I this? Why am I that? Why am I so stressed? Why am I acting and behaving the way that I am? And then you get into therapy and you realize, wow, it's a lot of childhood trauma that you did, that some of it gets unlocked, that like suppressed memory. Some of it is stuff that comes that you don't realize. They're like, oh, that's why the way that I am.
Yeah.
And the unlocked stuff can be terrifying, but it's been such a healing journey to look back on that perfect life that you think you had, when really suppressing who you are for so long and shoving your life full of food and shoving your life full of just stuff. So if I can be busy, be the straight A student, be this, be in this club, be in that, nobody's going to notice I'm gay. That's what I grew up in.
You mean you found your worth in performance and achievement? And
who would have thought? Like, what a concept.
Yeah.
So that was basically my childhood in a nutshell, like where I come from. And I'm thankful for it. Looking back now, I think, again, going back to the darkness, like you can appreciate it for what it was awful whenever it's bringing stuff in your life that's not fun. But when you overcome that, you can appreciate the darkness more because it kind of makes you who you are today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look at the people and like the people that your story and the people that you're able to help.
Oh my gosh.
Would that be possible if, and I think about the same thing for myself and all the other people that come on here, we could wish that we had a perfect life, but perfect is boring.
Oh God, it's overrated.
Yeah.
Ugh, it doesn't exist. But yet and I'm in an industry where people strive for perfection. And I got caught up in that. And I'm trying to undo that in the aesthetics industry. I'm like, gosh, I was like, we are chasing this filtered perfection that doesn't exist. And people don't realize how toxic it can be to your life. I've been there, done that, got a t-shirt, hated it, honey,
Right.
and you think you love it until you realize that t-shirt's choking the life out of you.
Oof.
Yeah. Perfect, overrated. We don't want it. Cancel your subscription.
Right.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you if you're able to share. If you're not, it's okay.
I'm an open book.
Okay. So when you talk about childhood trauma that you've been able to uncover, is there anything that you'd like to speak to that kind of paints a little bit of color into, that picture of...
Yeah, I think the constant chasing perfectionism. And if I am the best of the best of the best of the best, nobody's going to notice this part of me that I'm having to shove down and be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of causing a lot of the trauma.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then you get into adulthood and you're like, gotta have the best career, gotta have the nice car, gotta have the nice things and all this stuff, and not realizing like, wow, I haven't dealt with any of the shame that like I had to suppress. Like, I think if you are born gay, by the time you come of age, you have to like have a year's worth of therapy already. Like, it should be paid for you.
Right.
And the Velvet Rage book. Like, it just has to happen. Like, those two things that we should come into the world with.
Wait, hold on. There's I've not heard of this Velvet Rage book.
Oh my God. I'm about to change your life.
So it's called the Velvet Rage book?
The Velvet Rage. The author is escaping me right now, but is the single-handedly the book that changed my whole life as a gay man.
Really?
It is absolutely incredible. It's talking about the shame that we don't realize that we have, that we grow up with. If you're in a healthy home and somebody that's accepting and loving, which is very rare in the community, but when you are having to do things like I did, like, and okay, I'm gay. I can't let that come out. I need to be shameful of that. I'm going to go to hell. God hates me. All these things. I have to suppress that side. I have to be ashamed of that. So I'm going to fill it with all these other things. And then you don't deal with said shame growing up. And it leads to behaviors of like hookup culture, the perfect body. And, you know, I mean, the straight, skinny, gay, fat is what I always call it in the LGBT community.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
straight, skinny, gay.
Like, in the straight world, I am skinny. But in the gay world, I'm considered obese. And it's sad that we have to feel that way. And it's because we're in a toxic culture where nobody's dealing with the shame and working themselves, and we're chasing this perfectionism. We've got to be this, and we're filling our lives with stuff that really is just packing on top of the stuff that we need to uncover.
Yeah.
And the Velvet Rage, that book had really was eye-opening for me as a gay man to be like, wow, I just got cold chills head to toe. I'm like, oh, your life wasn't perfect. Oh, and you're acting this way, and why do you have the car? Why do you have the career? Why do you have all this stuff, and you're still not happy? And it's because you're not dealing with the shame and all that. And that was a big eye opener for me. And then there's the sexual abuse trauma that happened when I was a kid. You know, that I didn't know I knew I had one incident when I was 13, and then and this just happened over the past year and a half, and I just had to deal with this probably about 6 months ago. So this is new. Of just like, I woke up and like had this person that was so important in my life and into my parents' life. And I had all these beautiful memories of this person. And then one moment I wake up and I'm like, this person molested me. And where did this come from? And just all these memories unlocking. And it makes you feel crazy a little bit. And in therapy, she's just like, no, and then hypnosis and also realizing that these are unlocked memories, because I've started to deal with unpacking all the stuff and all the layers that, you know, it shatters your whole world of like this person that you thought had your best intentions. But then these memories that you had a screenshot of, it's like all of a sudden the camera, you get to view the after and the before and see what really happened. And it's awful. But this Josh can handle it versus a few years ago that Josh couldn't. I'm thankful for that.
I can't say that I coined this phrase, but it's something that I guess have observed, and so I like talk about this a lot because it's a reality for me. That I believe that whether it's God, higher power, the brain just protecting itself, I think that we aren't shown certain things in our past until we are capable of dealing with them safely.
Absolutely.
And we have a support system. And maybe that's not always true, but I think a lot of the time that's true. And the more and more people that I talk to and stories where we're just like you, that we're uncovering, you know, that's the narrative that plays out. It is. And I think that I'm a firm believer that there's intention there. There's a reason there, you know, and it's safety and love for the, you know, the child on the inside that needs to be protected. And so I want to ask you, because I know that this is I'll just tell you. So I had a family member when I came out of the closet that straight up asked me, were you molested? Because this is a very common thing for, if you're not from the South, this is for those of us who are, you know, come from conservative Christian families. It's a pretty common go-to for people who are not accepting of homosexuality being something that we are born with. And so, of course, something must have happened too, right?
To cause this.
Yes. And so...
Heaven forbid it's you're born this way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so did that... I mean, I guess because you didn't even have the realization of it until this past year, you already owned who you were and you were living in your authenticity. But I'm just curious. I mean, like, has that been something that you've shared with your family? Have you had anybody say,
Yeah.
It was, oh, that explains it.
There we go. That's the reason. Now we can change. I did. And the fact that you like, as you're talking, I'm like, I already know what you're thinking and what you're going to say because it is so prevalent, especially in the South. And it's like, you know, parents either they take on like, oh, I must have done something. I had to deal a lot with like, oh, well, I got divorced from your father. If you had your father around, then you wouldn't be gay. Right. And I'm like, pretty sure that's not correct. And then had a lot of and I even had to address this, you know, like, and this was back in college when I told my mom that, you know, like she would be like, you just hang around girls all the time. I wish you had more guy friends. And I was just like, the reason why I don't is because I don't want to hang out with guys because of what happened to me when I was 13 years old. It actually, if anything, it makes you not even want to be around guys. Like it pushed me away. Like I didn't want that relationship with a man. So if anything, it pushes you further away from it. And I had to, you know, I think she probably thought, you know, regardless of what I said, like she was probably, that's probably what led to it when I was 13. But then I got the chance 6 months ago to be like, you know, this happened. And it's not something that I wanted to say because this person is still alive. Right. And I was fearful for what might happen, you know, and so I just was like, we have to keep this between us, you know, and that level of trust with my mom. And it was just, I was like, I didn't even want to tell you because I didn't want to armor you with like, oh, that explains why he's gay. It happened at such a young age that like, oh yeah, you know. And so I had to like preface with that. And mind-blowingly, she was just like, no, Josh. She goes, I don't think that. She goes, I would actually think the opposite would happen. And when I tell you, Patrick, my jaw, I almost had to pick my jaw up off the floor. I was like, all right, Mom, are we evolving a little bit? We've come a long way. But I was just like, okay, who is this? What have you done with my mom? And it was so powerful. It was very healing to hear my mom say that. Yeah. For her to, you know, to get rid of that preconceived notion. I think a lot of the times it is that way, but for me to almost gave her a chance to be like, no, I don't feel that way. And that was very refreshing. Yeah.
Gosh, that's a really neat moment that you got to have. Reparative.
It is. Yeah. And I just look at it, the whole thing, like you were saying, like is, you know, things are kind of unboxed or revealed to you at a certain time whenever you have the support system. And I also, with me, I know that like, you finally get the right people in your life and your support system, but the biggest support system is you. And I look as like my inner child. I know that glows different for me. Like I'm like, my inner child is now telling me these things because my inner child recognizes it. Ooh, I might get a little emotional with that. My inner child recognizes that I have done the work. And this Josh, this 38-year-old Josh, my inner child can look at him and be like, he's safe enough to tell this too. So I'm going to let him have a little bit more. So I feel a little bit more loved. And that's how I've kind of looked at I've looked at my inner child of that, this person that finally looks to me as like the big brother that has his back. And so he's like leaning on me more and more and he's happier and all that stuff. And it's like, but you have to be your strongest support system. I found, you know, you can have your people do it and all this stuff, but that inner child will unlock the world for you if they trust you, you know? So it's, that was deep. I love that. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh, I love this. You know, we go right where we're supposed to. Yeah.
I call them downloads from the universe, like the divine. I'm like, I'm like, when I get the cold chills, I'm like, all right, there it is. That's my truth. Like,
yes. Yeah. Golly. So I want to go back to, so we've kind of established the the childhood trauma, moving forward into your teen years as you're developing in your identity, learning more about yourself, and coping strategies, whether they're healthy or not.
Yeah.
What all played out there?
Oh gosh, let's go to college real quick.
Okay, Vandy.
Yeah, Vandy. Yep, Vandy days. Aaron, don't judge me. Like in high school, as you're developing, puberty hits. Middle school and then high school, you start, get your girlfriend. You fool around with stuff and experience that. And I was like, no. I have my girlfriend. I love you if you're listening. But that was the best time there. I was like, you got to wait for marriage. I was like, thank you, church, for giving me that piece
Purity
of armor.
culture.
I was like, purity culture. I was like, no, we've got to wait for marriage. Like she was one.
Did you have a promise ring?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I was like not doing that. And thank God, because I would have thrown up. I can't do it. I love you females, but I just can't do it. Like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I was so thankful for that. I was like, we have to wait for marriage. Like, here we go. I was like, I'm like on a Kinsey scale, I'm like gay. I'm like real gay.
Yeah. For those of you who might not know, the Kinsey scale is somebody, and his last name is Kinsey, who was a theorist that that basically theorized that every human on Earth ranges from completely straight to completely gay, and everybody falls somewhere on that spectrum. Yeah.
And there's a thin line between gay and straight, and it's called vodka. In Brentwood, it's called water.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So on the Kinsey scale, I'm like way over to the right on that end.
Right.
But I was so thankful for that in that moment. But I didn't get to explore like high school boys got to explore. Like I couldn't risk, losing my family, any of that stuff. So in college, I had my fun, partook in some very unhealthy behaviors and a lot of that. And I think it's in gay culture is, the hookup culture is that you're craving touch. You just want to explore. At first it starts off that you just want to explore. And then you just realize that like sometimes, and now looking back on it, it was unresolved trauma that you just didn't know about. It's causing you to act this way. You just crave touch and it didn't matter where it come from. As much, and you're just like, and then you're not getting fulfilled. You're not any of this stuff, and then it's like later in your life, you're like, what are you doing with your life? And it starts to affect you, even though it feels good for a minute, And just realizing that a lot of those behaviors were doing that. And in college, would drink. I was very like my father had turned to alcohol, and I kind of saw that, and so I kind of knew to just watch myself. And then I was very thankful that I could catch myself. Like if I was starting to be like, okay, why are you doing this? And to, watch my behavior with that. And luckily I never had to get to a point of, that interfering with my life. So I was very thankful for that. But the drug of choice was just turned into unhealthy touch. And all this stuff. And then, and then it's okay to, it's fine, just whatever. And I'm like, no, it's not okay. Like the amount of hookup culture in our community is very unhealthy, and I can look back now on that and be like, wow, that was dangerous, that you were putting your body at risk. Like, and it's like your body to be able to interact should be a privilege. It's
heck yes.
It's like, whenever there's sexual energy exchange, it's like you taking a USB drive, sticking it into a computer, and you are downloading somebody's energetic DNA.
Yep.
Every single person you have a sexual encounter with. And God only knows the damage that does over time.
Yeah.
So I think that was by not getting to explore and have a healthy way of exploring wants and desires as a teenager, whenever we should have a healthy environment to be able to explore that. Yeah. Then you explore it in college, but it gets a little unhealthy. Yeah. Or a lot of unhealthy and very dangerous. Yeah. So that was what I saw. And it would, with me and how that affected me. And then just it turned into like, I valued my career and the things and the attention and the conference, the aesthetic conferences and all this stuff more than I valued myself, because I didn't know how to value myself. And I think that was the biggest detriment that I had with everything from growing up, that I've realized that like I put all my value into everything else and other people and didn't know how to value myself.
I love that you bring that up, because a theme that I think is, it's become very apparent for me over the last 6 years has been finding out who I am so that I can then like and love myself. But if I don't do the work to find out and peel back and understand exactly who I am, what I like, what I really like, what I really value, what really makes me happy, What actually upsets me, all those things, not the things that make other people happy, which makes me think that I'm happy, or the stuff that gives me social reward or all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of work for me to get there. And I know it's taken a lot of work for you to get there too.
It's difficult.
And I mean, it's not like it's a never ending process, but there's something magical that happens once it's revealed. And you just touched on that, getting to know yourself, right? It wasn't the conferences, it wasn't that this, it wasn't that, but you had to learn to identify and love yourself.
It's so true.
What started that journey for you?
I think for me, so I'm an aesthetic nurse. So I do the tox and the fillers, skincare, all this stuff in the aesthetics and the beauty industry. And I was very happy because after, Vanderbilt had, top of my class, Belmont for nursing school, top of my class, because again, keeping that trend going on through all that stuff, because I got to be, the best of the best. And then I had a really rock bottom moment, like with my career in nursing, about a year and a half after becoming a nurse, that really kind of shocked me into survival mode. And I was worried there for a little bit. I was just like, wow, what have I done? Like, I've done all this stuff. I'm like, what am I going to do? Like my dream job what
was your dream job?
I was a trauma nurse.
Okay.
At Vandy.
Okay.
And they were not very, ethical, and that's a whole other podcast in itself of how they tried to play Russian roulette with my nursing license. Yes.
Okay.
And then getting out of a horrible situation there, I was like, oh my God, I was going to be a trauma nurse, and then I'm going to be a CRNA, and I'm going to be this. Like, what do I do? Like, I've made my whole life choice to be able to do this. Turn down a full ride to UCLA's conducting school, to go to nursing school, because to mirror, music in nursing, so I could do it together, like have a good life. I'm like, who am I without this? That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
So, because I'm nothing without my career. I'm nothing without all these things.
Yeah.
And then when I found aesthetics in 2014, I was like, oh my God, I'm actually really good at this. I found a way to bridge the art and the science together, like my music background with the science of nursing, into aesthetic medicine, and I fell head over heels for it, and I dove straight in, and it's taken off. I am very thankful for these last almost 10 years with this.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize, again, how caught up I was getting in the industry, and how it was making a lot of things worse. As a gay man, body dysmorphic disorder. Yeah. Huge and rampant.
When do you think that first showed up for you?
Definitely like middle school, high school.
Okay.
The Abercrombie culture.
No.
Oh.
Have you seen that documentary?
Oh my God. I am the prime definition of an outcome of that. Like straight up. My walls were decked with that.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, and I was striving for that. And I couldn't get it because that wasn't my body type. So I would eat and get more depressed. I was just like, eat and eat and eat. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But didn't realize that like I'm eating for a deeper reason. I'm like, covering up things. And then I think in middle school, when I first started being called gay, I started eating and gaining weight. So I'm like, oh, maybe they'll notice that. They won't notice the gay. Like trying to just shove everything with food and armor myself, protection.
Wow.
So I think that started a long time ago. Definitely, for sure. And it got a lot worse when I got into the aesthetics industry.
Oh, sure.
Because it's a toxic culture in this industry. Like I'm ranked one of the top injectors in the country, and
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Worked my tail off, did a lot of lips for that. I was very honored, with this. And it's one that like we're in an industry of perfectionism. Like people come to me chasing that filtered look. And I used to just be like, yes, queen, we got this. Boom, 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 boom. Because when we say yes, we make money, right? When we say no, we don't. But I was just getting caught up in it because I was getting caught up in myself. I had eye bags. I had not good skin. Didn't care. Years of marching band and all that stuff. Didn't wear sunscreen. Took care of myself. So now I'm like, oh, I'm more accepted if I put fillers in my face, if my wrinkles relax, if I've got good skin care, and I look like that chiseled filter. And I was eating that alive, which fed I call it BDD Daryl. Like I name all my anxious Annie, depressive Deborah. I name them all because then I can control them. Like we can talk about that. Yeah. But so BDD Daryl.
Wait, but can we just
we can unbox that.
No, I just this is so irreverent, but I feel like those characters could come out in some of your like online skit. Oh, right. I think we need to throw a wig on.
Girl, Anxious Annie. Oh yes, honey. She's got a bob cut, and she's like Josh. She's like the worried mom,
right?
The helicopter parent.
Yep.
And I have to put her in her place.
Okay.
But I couldn't do that. So this is something I learned years ago in therapy. She was like, name them. And I'm like, what? She was like, name them and see what happens. And I did. And I was like, suddenly when I named them, it was, and like I kind of laughed with them. When I gave it a name, it was like I got control back over them. So like when Anxious Annie rears her head now, I'm like, hey, Annie girl, I know what you're trying to do. You are trying to protect me right now, but I am safe. I'm calm. I'm cool. I'm collective. I see what you're doing. Thank you for trying to protect me, but you can go back there. And she's like, okay. So me talking to them, yeah. I know I probably sound crazy, but like, I'm like depressive Deborah. I'm like, girl.
What does Deborah look like?
She lays in bed, honey. She eats 12 packs of Oreos. She don't care. She doesn't shower. She gets no energy.
What color's her hair? How long is it?
Oh,
texture?
Honey, it's like, it's like the blonde roots that like are like 6 inches past like where they should be. She hasn't taken care of herself. Yeah. But so I have to talk to her and I have to be like, listen, girl, we've got this, you know. And IBS Irene, that was another one. Now she's funny. We named her, and all of a sudden it's like, instead of something that I had to be shameful about, especially as a gay man, like I'm like, oh, Irene won't like that. I laugh at it, and suddenly it drops by 50%.
I'm gonna have to share IBS Irene with a couple of my friends who are related to Irene.
Yeah, Irene, Eileen, like she got all kinds of cousins up through there.
But what is she? Wait, what does IBS Irene look like?
Oh, honey, she don't care. She's the one that goes to Walmart in like a cutoff tank top. She got Daisy Dukes on that her like butt crack is eating half of it. She don't care. She got one flip flop that doesn't match the other. Her hair's however she got up. And she don't care. She's like, oh, you're going on a road trip? Hey. And she comes at the like most inconvenient times. And she's a not nice person. But
really?
She's nasty. She's a nasty girl. So we've had to put her in her place. We've had to tone her down a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I know.
Got to tone.
If you're struggling with any of these things, name them.
Yeah.
And I've helped some of my friends with that too. Like one of my friends, she's 21 years old and really struggles with panic attacks. And she's called me and we've had to go. I went out to the store and like in the middle of the store, calm her down. I'm like, all right, what is it? I can't remember what we called hers, but it was like Anxious Andrew or Anxious, whatever it is. And we just talked to her and like within 5 minutes, she's calming down. So there's some magic with that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. Maybe I can get 10% of the profits on whoever coined that. And if not, then I'm going to coin it. We're going to name our disorders so we can conquer them.
I love that. Wait, so the one I didn't ask you about, so BDD Daryl, what does Daryl look like? Describe Daryl for me.
Daryl is that Abercrombie model.
Oh, okay.
That was hanging on my wall.
Yeah.
And he's the one that's just like, if you don't look like this, you're not worthy. Yeah. Oh, your talks were off. You're worthless. Oh, look, your cheeks are a little deflated. Those eye bags, as a gay man, you're worthless. And
I think I just got a waft of Abercrombie Fierce as you said that.
Oh, yeah. It reeks in our pores. Yeah. And that's been the hardest one to overcome.
Yeah.
And I still haven't. I still struggle with it. But the journey this past 6 months, well, since last year, like really hit ahead, like, you know, the aesthetics industry doing all this stuff. And I had a really, really bad filler complication that almost killed me last summer. And
like you yourself?
Yes.
Oh.
And when I tell you it lit the whole aesthetics world, I had people from all over the world being like, oh my gosh, I was in the hospital. It triggered almost ARDS and sepsis.
What is ARDS?
Acute respiratory distress syndrome. Ooh. And I used to take care of patients like that. I'm like, they go on a rotoprone and a lot of times they don't come out of that. And I'm sitting here in the hospital being like, oh my God, I'm about to die. Like I felt it. I was like, I'm about to be intubated. My lungs, I couldn't hardly breathe. The filler was causing a reaction that caused my body to attack itself. Now, don't get scared about filler. Like it's just certain types of filler that the aesthetics industry knows has an issue, but yet they're ignoring. It's a problem. So I got all of that filler. I had 25 syringes of filler in my face to look like how I thought I should look. And so I survived, thank God. And I was able to come out of that. I had all the filler dissolved. And there was something so beautiful about the dissolving process. Not only did I dissolve all that nastiness out of my face, but I dissolved the aesthetics industry out of me too. Something happened last summer that was a real big turning point for me, realizing how much of the aesthetics industry I had taken on myself. And I preach, I'd be unapologetically you, but here I am being like, who are you? Who people know Tox Josh. Who's Josh? I didn't know who Josh was. And I realized that BDD had really got a hold of me. It was the biggest monster in my life. And I'm looking back on it now, I'm thankful that what happened with my face happened, because I'm in such a different place than I, now. And, I have a voice in the aesthetics industry. What was I using it for? Like being this person that just being a bitchy gay on TV, on Instagram for what likes and hearts. You've got a platform. What are you going to use it for? And now I'm seeing because it's a problem. We make money off of people's mental health disorders in this industry. We make money. BDD is making aesthetic providers rich as can be, and it's unethical. And it made mine worse. And I can speak to it, and I've got this voice where I'm like, well, instead of getting out of the industry like I wanted to, no, because I love it.
Right.
But we're going to change it.
Sure.
And so being able to dissolve that out and really the filler was kind of the wall hiding Daryl, BDD Daryl, and it made me face it. And I gained 45 pounds. That would have probably, honestly, not even joking, that would have probably 2 years ago made me commit suicide.
Wow.
There wasn't a day that would go by that I didn't look in the mirror and spew hate at myself or step on the scale or hit my stomach and be sorry, I get really emotional about this stuff.
No, that's okay.
Just the things that I would say to myself, I would never say to a human being.
Yeah.
But here I am saying it to myself. And then what have I been doing with patients when they come in and they're tearing themselves apart? And I'm okay, we can fix that. And then over the past year and a half, I really stopped doing that. I learned to love the sound of no. We're not doing that. We do a lot of things differently, in our clinic, Reiki energy, it doesn't matter the amount of tox or filler if the insides aren't right, it doesn't matter on the outside.
Amen.
And so that's been my past year and a half journey, really dealing with BDD and trying to bring awareness to it in the industry, because it is so prevalent, not only in our industry, but amongst the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yeah.
And it's doing so much more damage, and we don't realize that they have it, and we're just not addressing it.
Well, you mentioned how it's prevalent in the LGBTQ plus community, especially we can speak to this. I mean, I can personally speak to it because I've dealt with it. I deal with it myself.
Yeah.
I know that it's very strong amongst cis gay men. I'm sure that other people that identify differently deal with it as well. But just on our end of our experiences, I know that is something that's really strong. Cis males in general, body dysmorphic disorder and disordered eating is so under reported and under analyzed, under talked about, all the things. And I think because of the way that we go to extremes as gay men a lot of the times tends to be so much more acute than a lot of straight men. And I know that I'm generalizing and stereotyping, but you talked about that the severe skinniness, right? The gay versus straight. I think the parallels that I would say is this, how you talked about, I can really relate to what you're talking about. The whole, I look at the Abercrombie guy and realize that's too much work, because to be Mr. Abercrombie, Daryl, you've got to eat the amount of calories and do it the right kind, the right way.
To a gym.
And yes, you've got to be at the gym probably twice a day, doing both, weightlifting and cardio. Or you can go to the other side of things and just be super skinny. And that's a lot. It feels a lot more easy and attainable to go to that end, because it's very complex. The whole idea of gaining muscle, but also having 3% body fat. Like how the heck
I'm like,
do you get there?
Makes no sense.
No.
And we don't even address that, you know, I got down to like 130 pounds as a 6'1" male. That's not healthy. We don't realize the detriment that we're doing to ourselves. And, you know, as gay men, like okay, well, I'm not going to eat. If I can't be muscular and do that, then I'm just going to get super skinny.
Right.
We are causing so many health issues with that, like losing muscle mass. Then it's even harder to put on muscle because you got so skinny.
Yep.
And then and then you get skinny fat. Like with, you know, whenever you try to do anything, you gain the fat and not the muscle.
Right.
And so it's just like, and then what does that make you do? Look in the mirror, hate yourself more, let's eat. Because it feels better to eat than it does to...
And you go straight back into that shame cycle.
Oh, it's awful. And not to mention that, you know, we speak from a gay man's perspective, but like celebrity culture. You know, I was listening to your episode that Savannah Chrisley said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's the cure for homosexuality is what I always say. I'm like, you are gorgeous, honey.
Right.
You know, but to hear like the pressure of like, you either like if they gain weight, that she's let herself go. If she gets too, she's not eating. Like, they're aging. Like Sarah Jessica Parker right now is being torn apart.
Oh my gosh.
But yet men
Yep.
aren't. You know, it's like, and it's this unrealistic. And it's not even a standard of beauty anymore because we don't even know what it is. Like we complain when it's too much. We complain when it's too little.
Right.
And the females, especially in celebrity culture, like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the pressure that they put on themselves as well. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
It is.
Something has to stop. Like, when are we going to change it?
Right. We're at this crossroads where there's a huge movement of body positivity, but yet there's still, oh gosh, it's so odd because, I'll be honest, I can be like, I support all day long. I support body positivity right and left. Like, I love you, the size you are, the way you are. I think you're beautiful, all those things. But my own insecurities, like, I don't know. I don't know. I think it would be really hard for me to live in a body that was different than where I'm at right now. Yeah. Like, that scares me. I'm getting super vulnerable right now, but like, those are some legit fears that I have. And so I think that the reason why I want to say that is because I think there are a lot of people out there that live in, I know that I feel like I live in a generally, I'm a thinner build currently. I've been across the board, right? Like, I've been pretty overweight at times. I've yo-yoed like crazy again, and we both, we can relate on that. And but I think that where people can relate to this is, it's one thing to be in what many people would say is an ideal body, right? Like, you're already thin and whatever, and say, I support body positivity, and, which I do, but also if I support it, like, it's such a mind F, because if we truly support it, are we saying we support it completely, or we support it for just other people? Would I love myself if if my body changed because it had to change for some type of reason, if I lost control? And I think that's somewhere that so many of us are. And that's why a lot of the magazines still look the same way they do. That's why so many of the people, no offense, but a lot of the, the social media content creators that are just Mr. Abercrombie, Mrs. Abercrombie, all those things, and they have absolutely zero substance to their pages, but they, like, mass follows, mass engagement, all these things. And, it is what it is, but at the same time, we've got a lot of solution to get to, questions to answer. And when I say questions, I mean questions we've got to ask ourselves.
Yes.
And that's why I went to that vulnerable place of myself stating what I just did right there, because I think that if you're in a body that you would not otherwise define as one that's body positive, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you can't ask yourself and really get honest about that, like, what drives you? What drives you to go to the gym? What drives you to eat the way you do? Is it fear? Is it because you're so scared and you don't want to, or is it from a place of, and this is what I'm asking myself right now in this moment, or is it because I'm trying to follow healthy guidelines that I want to take care of my body, and the end result will be, hopefully that I continue to be in a healthy body, and I want to take care of this mechanism that's going to carry me through life.
Yep.
But I think more often than not, the answer truly, being honest here, for me, is that I make a lot of those choices out of fear.
Yeah. And I think the vulnerability of, just like you did, and setting that example to be vulnerable is what's going to change. Like, when one person's vulnerable, it gives permission for another person, and then another person. It's a ripple effect. And when we can sit and ask ourselves it's sucky to ask ourselves these questions. It's hard. It's scary. And fear, I think, is the biggest driving factor. But when we can get real and honest with ourselves, and that's where the change happens. And understanding that it's okay. Like, if we had one car, if we were given one car our whole life, it's okay. I'm going to take it in for a paint job. I'm going to take it in for tune-ups and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, because you want to take care of it.
Yeah.
And just like with our bodies and all that stuff, it's okay to, go to the gym and want to eat healthy and to get tox and fillers and all these things, as long as it's for the right reason, as long as the inside's right. And as long as we're not just covering up a bunch of mess that we need to address. And I think, especially with BDD, it's probably always going to be a hard conversation, and a conversation we're going to have for our entire life, because I don't think it ever fully goes away.
I don't think so either. This is a perfect segue, but let's lead into, because I realized that for those who might be listening and not know, how would you describe body dysmorphic disorder?
Okay.
BDD. We've already been talking about how it manifests, but.
Yes. So body dysmorphic disorder it's kind of like a distorted self-image of yourself. Like, when you're looking into the mirror, like I see one thing, like what other people see is one thing, but what I may see somebody in the mirror that weighs 250, 300 pounds, even though I only weigh now I'm 170, it's having that distorted image of yourself when you in your own perception that isn't actual reality. So a lot of people that it leads to bulimia and anorexia, because that BDD is kind of the root cause. You have this distorted image of yourself that isn't accurate and rooted in reality, and when you look in the mirror, it makes you see that, even though it's not realistic, which feeds all the other stuff, which makes it worse. And then you look back in the mirror again, and it's just this perpetual cycle. So I think it starts a lot of the other major eating disorders.
Yeah.
And can lead to anxiety, depression, a lot of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just it's a perception of yourself that isn't accurate of how you see yourself. Yeah. And it's really prevalent. I mean, the numbers, the numbers not even accurate because it's so under diagnosed and under talked about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How, I think sometimes general public, let me step back for a second. Because I work in the behavioral health field, I have been privy to the backside of what research and studies for numbers and statistics look like, what it takes, whether we're talking about addiction, all these different things. You've got to have, in order to do a research study that can be quoted and actually have true statistics on, a dependable number, so much work has to go into this. But you've also got to have a population of people that aren't controlled by fear, shame, and stigma. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not possible to get a population of people that aren't driven by that, especially that struggle with these things. So how can we have real, genuine answers of the percentage of population that struggle?
especially with people, a lot of people with BDD are in denial. I think they should add another D on there.
Hell to the yes.
I was like, no, like I'm fat. Like I'm not skinny. Like, so no. And I don't have BDD. No, I need to lose weight. It's strong, and that keeps a hold of people with the disorder. And again, I think the answer is people being vulnerable to talk about it. And the more celebrities, the more people with a platform, thank you for doing that.
Oh my gosh.
I love, like, makes me so happy.
Yeah.
And love what you're doing with this. That's why it's so powerful, is giving a people a safe place to be vulnerable. Like talking to celebrities and being like, letting them express, that I talked with Gwyneth Paltrow with Merz Aesthetics, and I asked her that. I said, girl, welcome to your gay best friend in Nashville you didn't know you had. And I was like, I can't imagine the pressures that you go through being a celebrity and to look a certain way. We know we're getting these procedures. Like J-Lo, we know that's not your skincare line doing that face. Jennifer Aniston, we know that's not a Vino lotion.
Right.
Like, and heaven forbid we address the Kardashians. They have such a big platform.
Yeah.
And they influence so much of these unrealistic expectations. When these people start being vulnerable and saying, this is what I look like, and it's okay. You don't need any of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's okay to want to, but like, you don't need any of it. You're okay how you are. And just being real with people, like, so we don't pressure the young girls and people on social media of these unrealistic expectations when they're vulnerable to talk about, like, hey, I'm human too. I suffer from this. I do this. Yeah, I might gain a little weight, blah, blah, blah. We all use a filter. We love it. But like, instead of showing the highlight reel on social media, let's be real and vulnerable with people and give them a safe space to be able to talk about it. And let's normalize it first. Then that sets the stage for people to truly heal from this and not feel ashamed. And if you have people like the Kardashians and these people being like, when I look in the mirror, I might have a flaw here and flaw here, but you know what? That's okay, and I love myself. Could you imagine the impact that a statement like that from one of them people that's so influential could have on the mental health of the youth and young girls and people?
Endless.
That is what we need to bring. And it's really addressing the toxic culture that doesn't allow the people the safe platform, or that feel that they can, because the pressures, probably from men in the industry, make them, no, we can't talk about that.
Right.
That's where, with this disorder, I think really going to start the healing process, is when you have these big influential people realizing this is detrimental and opening up about it and talking about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's the perfect lead in to the healing piece of your journey. So what has that been? So obviously it sounds like your near-death experience was what propelled you and started it.
It was.
What has your work looked like, your inner work, since then?
It really and right before that happened last summer, like the previous kind of fall, I kind of started like this, the spiritual awakenings people call it, or a journey, or, whatever this is. Just realizing that a lot of things that I found, like back in the day, teas and essential oils, and then crystals and Reiki. Like, I'm like, why? Like, I would go into Roma G's over in Donaldson, and I'm like, because of my preconceived, I was like, this is of the devil, way back in the day, like, would just be like, oh, I can't do that, but God, those tarot cards look so cute, like, I want that, but no, I can't like that, because that's what they told me I can't do.
Right.
And just realizing the things that that become of an interest became a reality for my life. And Reiki and energy healing was a big thing for me. I'm a big energy person. And that happened the fall right before that happened with my face. And therapy was huge, getting in and just talking and having somebody call me out on my own stuff, and finding a safe place to be able to talk about these things with somebody that doesn't know who I am, that can truly help. That really, over the past 7 years, I've been in therapy for 7 years, and it was wonderful.
I love to ask people this question.
Yeah.
What got you into therapy?
Definitely the fact that I started noticing anxiety and depression come up, and I'm like, where's this coming from? And I can't fix it. I can't take those medicines. Those are crazy pills. Thanks, Mom, for that. And you just got to go to the Lord, honey, and He'll fix it all.
Do we have the same mom?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's their culture I was raised in, and I'm like, we're
God
breaking
bless
that
them.
generational
Exactly.
trauma. Yep.
Love them. But
And then I'm like, you get on medication, you're like, oh my God, I didn't have to feel this way for all those. I could actually get help. So medication really helped with that. And medication helped calm the storm. You can't do squat in a tornado. You need to let the tornado calm down, and then you can think clearly. And so once I got over, and even as a nurse, getting over the preconceived notion that medication was bad, and that was from family trauma passed on, calming my own storm with medication allowed me to think clearly and helped therapy even more. And then it allowed things to come into my life to supplement to where I could eventually get off medication, which was great. And Reiki and more the metaphysical side. Like in my clinic, we do metaphysical aesthetics. So I've got psychic mediums. We have divination. We have Reiki energy healers. We have a medical intuitionist. So like when people can't tell me 3 things they love about themselves, we're putting the syringe down and we're going to work on the inside. The things that brought my life back to me, that's brought my joy back, I've incorporated into my clinic to share. I love that
so much.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to keep this secret. This is what we need to bring to aesthetics. Like energy healing, it's in over 1,000 hospitals. It's incredible. And it's what changed my life. And I try to bring that to everything I do. So that's been the biggest thing with just going inward, healing, energy, therapy, and just honestly having those hard, honest conversations with myself, getting over the fear of that. That's been my healing journey over these, I'd say about 2 years. That's really, hit home. 7 years of therapy, but the last 2, when I actually did the work myself.
Oh yeah.
That's when it was just like, oh wow. And then the face, that was kind of the start of dissolving all the bullshit out.
Yeah.
Sorry for the language.
No, you're.
But just dissolving.
You're the first person to ever cuss on my show.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was kind of like the catalyst that like made everything make sense. And here we are, trying to be different with my platform, trying to have different conversations than like, oh yeah, what talks do you do, girl? Right. Oh yes, look at those lips. I can't do it anymore. Yep. I just cannot. And even if that means I make less money, I'm okay with that. Because I can sleep better at night knowing I didn't make money off of somebody's mental health. And
I think
if I can help them.
Oh, I think that is, whether you're talking about money, your mental, emotional, spiritual health, whatever currency it is, making the decision that's right for you and your growth and journey.
Yes. That
sits with your authentic self and your authentic truth. Is always the right decision. It's always going to pay off in the long run.
Every single time.
Not only for myself, for yourself, but for our orbit.
Yes.
The people around us.
When you shine differently, it helps other people shine differently. Like,
heck yeah.
And you know what? If I had to go through the darkness to get to the light, as long as it helps light one other candle, I'm fine. I'm hoping it lights millions, but that's the beauty about doing and looking inward on yourself. When we try and strive to be the best versions of ourselves that we are and deal with our own bull crap and all the stuff that's calming us down, and we go through that darkness, and then we can shine our light bright. It brings shadows in others. They get drawn to it, and then it triggers something in them. Oh my goodness. And then if the whole world does that, that's what's going to change it.
That's right.
I always be like, oh, you're not gonna be able to change the world, blah, blah, blah. And you get over that thing. Be like, if I can change one person, it's a domino effect.
That's right.
I hope so many more people will get that mentality when getting to themselves and go inward. The outward will be so much better.
That just made me think of something somebody much wiser than me once said, and I can't remember if it was one-on-one or at a conference or something, but they were talking about perfectionism and the idea, when you look at the task at hand in front of you and wanting to, bring about change, and you think about, oh, but I need to do all of this, until you can look at when you're following your mission, your passion, until you're able to look at the person you're working with or that's right in front of you as the most important person,
Yes.
that your mission, what you're called to do, that person is the most important, and that's time and space. Until you're able to do that, rather than to think about changing everyone at once, you will not be able to affect change in a positive manner. Mm-mm. You're going to keep spinning and spinning and spinning. And I have to bring myself back to that place, because it's easy to feel like you need to be big. We're both big energy people in both terms, right? Like
Love that.
big on energy, but also our energy is big.
Yeah.
And you know, wanting to do big things and cause big waves and make a maximum impact because our hearts are so big. That empathy is so huge. Mm-hmm. And, but when we're able to like bring that down to the moment of like, okay, my feet are right here. They're right next to where yours are. I'm looking at where we are. We're here in this moment. And right now we're sharing this space, and you are the most important person in this moment to me right now.
Yes.
Because we're right where we're supposed to be, doing what we're called to do.
Yes. Living in the past is depression. Living in the future is anxiety. Living in the present is happiness.
Can I get an amen?
And the whole congregation said gay men.
That's right. Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, I can't think of a better place to, I mean, what a great rap.
That was perfect. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, I don't know if there's anything left unsaid, but if there was, you know, a last thing that you want to leave the person or people that are tuning in to this episode that say, you know, they're identifying with part or all of your story, what would be that final word of encouragement that you'd like to leave with them?
I would say the final word is know, with everything going on and how you're feeling and how it may say all this, you know, just like I'm this, I'm that. You're not broken. We all have our stuff. You are enough just as you are, and you don't need to be fixed. Like, we all have stuff that we go through, but that doesn't mean we're a broken human being. We're just a human being. And it's okay, and just normalize telling yourself in the mirror every single day, I am enough just as I am. I'm not broken. I don't need to be fixed in order to be happy. You can be happy right here in the moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. But this is going to be in the show notes, but I want you to share, what's the name of your practice?
Yeah, so it's ToxJosh Studios. I'm down in Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. Yeah.
Very cool.
Done and done.
Again, it's going to be in the show notes, but just like, what's your handle? What's your website? How can people?
If you want to follow along with me on the crazy journey, it's at ToxJosh on Instagram. You'll find me on the new threads on there too.
Awesome.
That was kind of fun.
Heck yeah.
TikTok haven't dove into yet, but I'm trying.
Right.
And then website is ToxJosh.com, or my studio is ToxJoshStudios.com.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. And with that, I'm going to close out and remind everybody that it is never too late to start loving yourself, and you are only ever one decision away from a completely different life. This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098. Or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.